we hope, but we don't know exactly if it has. The only thing we can do is, hope that the people digesting our show is getting the message, right? The correct message that we're trying to portray.
Digesting is not the best word to describe the show because digesting whatever
That's true.
the weirdest shit that's happening in our
true.
show, it's really hard to digest. It's the first time like we get a glimpse, and I think people are drawn to that. They're like, it makes them, I don't know, think about what it means maybe to be immersed with too much power or having people rely on you to save you or savior or stuff like that. So it makes you think. It's kind of, I love it. I always say I feel like when I'm watching the show, I feel like, metaphorically speaking, like we're taking Superman's pants down.
We're pantsing
And
him.
like, look at that. He doesn't have what you think he had.
Yeah, we definitely have gotten closer. Kimiko and Frenchie have gotten closer, not only because, of their past and what they've shared in seasons 1 and 2, but because, they've kind of enjoyed life for a year, and he's shown her what the joys are and the dancing and we went out to eat, and yeah, I think their relationship definitely has deepened. For me, at least, it was my first time dancing a choreographed dance, so it was really difficult. Actually, Tomer brought in so many ideas. We worked with a dance coach, but he had some great YouTube videos. He was like, let's do this step, let's incorporate that. And I think, I forget what they were inspired from, but you brought in a lot.
Everything we can put our hands up. I feel like me and Karen read this and was like, we are going to nail it. We have to come prepared as much as possible. It was one of the most fun days I had on The Boys set because no blood, no fights,
Everyone's
no
happy,
killing,
smiling.
Everybody's doing,
the finger.
Like, man, I liked it.
I love Batman.
Batman.
Heath Ledger, Dark Knight is forever my favorite.
I'm kind of obsessed about The Crow.
Okay.
Brandon Lee's Crow.
Yeah. Oh,
Rest his soul. And
I really liked Black Widow. Yeah, huge fan of Florence and Scarlet.
Kitana to The Boys? But we got Kimiko. I don't need Kitana, no.
I think they're both great.
I don't know, I picked the X-Men. The fun one would be flying.
I would love to not be motion sickness. In cars, on boats, everything. So,
I want to be metabolism man. Oh, the only man I'm taking responsibility in this life is me. I'm not giving powers to anyone.
The success of The Boys and the complexity of the characters is really, by and large, due to the caliber of Eric Kripke and his writing team. I'm not sure if they were at the forefront of that, but certainly the material that I respond to best within our production is this sort of infusion of dynamic areas of grey within characters. So even characters who do and say the most atrocious things, there is interwoven within those characters a certain identifiability, a fallibility, and a vulnerability, and I think that's what makes them accessible to an audience. Yeah, well, the loss of Becca Butcher was a huge game changer for Billy at the end of season 2, and he has a responsibility to look after Ryan, but that responsibility is completely counterproductive and counterintuitive to Butcher's goal, which is to get vengeance on Homelander. And so there's a real dilemma for Butcher. He finds himself in a position where he is looking after this child and forming a relationship with him, but he doesn't have the skill set to do that. So it leads to, it leads to sort of an interesting conflict. I think Chris Nolan's Dark Knight Returns is right up there for me. I also love Logan. I think that was James Mangold's Logan was such a classy piece. No, I'm just a fan of films, and I'm a fan of any films that tell a story with heart. And it's just great that both Marvel and DC seem to be infusing that within their films. Off the top of my head, I can't think of anyone, and I think that's sort of one of the fundamental points that The Boys makes, is that power has a tendency to corrupt those, and certainly within contemporary history, there are many cases of and examples of that exact thing. I think we'd love to see superheroes going rogue because we are, by and large, generally so used to seeing them being, these altruistic and benevolent entities. And so when we see something that is tonally different, it's interesting and appealing, and certainly that's what you get on The Boys. I don't know. I'm an actor. I'm not a writer. I don't have a crystal ball into the future of Billy Butcher. The interesting thing for me about Butcher is that he's on a path of vengeance and revenge, and morally that is, not the correct choice. One should aspire for justice, yes, but and so, Billy's on a pretty dark path, so it'd be very difficult to envisage a future for him where there is reward for that path. Characters tend to get rewarded for doing the right things in The Boys and then punished for doing the wrong things. I think season 3 of The Boys is probably our most dynamic season yet. I think it's a lot of fun. I think that the characters that you're used to seeing are taken out of context, and you get some interesting pairings this season, characters who haven't worked together before. I'm excited for audiences to see that. I think that we really dive deeper into the characters, and it's a bigger show. There's more action, there's more special effects, and we have, the wonderful addition of Laurie Holden and Jensel Ackles, who comes in and plays Soldier Boy. So I'm super excited for the audiences in general to see it. I think it's an explosive, fun season, and we're really excited. Wild, unexpected, shocking.
Trauma.
There's some things you can't.
Everyone was just traumatized, I
You
think.
can't unsee some things.
Yeah.
Since they stay in your mind forever.
Burned in there.
Yep.
Some of that stuff.
And
You're just gonna have to watch
yeah.
it. How do you even describe
Yeah,
that
there's
episode? A bit of both, huh? I think she is going a bit rogue, but I don't think that was her intention. I think she's in season 3. She's kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place, so she kind of has to make some desperate, dire decisions that she doesn't necessarily want to, but needs to. So I don't think she's seeing things as kind of what's good, what's bad, but kind of what's necessary for her to survive and keep moving.
yes, we will find out more about his backstory. We'll find out, we'll explore one of the key moments of his life. And as the season goes on, we're gonna get a look into his mind and his psychology, and how he thinks, how he processes things. And that's gonna illuminate, how he makes his decisions, how he comforts himself, how he does, does what he needs to do. And it's gonna be a very key part of his journey this season.
Will he be a good one or a bad one? Can you tell me a little bit about that or not?
I think we all know that Noir is a lovable, good soul at heart. He kills some people here, he kills some people there, but he's got a big heart. I like to think that this show's done a lot to kind of really enhance that, that sphere, of superhero storytelling, because it's very character-based. We look at people as whole people with flaws, and with desires, with vulnerabilities and fears. And because we look at these superheroes as people and not just as these beings with powers, it gives a lot to the fans and everyone who watches it, and it reveals a lot about the human condition.
Yeah, and it definitely put a shift on the entire genre of superheroes. Yeah.
Because we've seen the typical story, again and again. Someone gets their
Hero's
powers,
journey, superhero.
They have to fight the bad guy, overcome something, happy ending.
Yeah.
And we've seen that again and again. And so when we get used to that as an audience, it's like, what else can we do?
Yeah.
How can we take this deeper? How can we explore the human condition? Now, how can we learn things about ourselves?
Also, they're not perfect. They're not these perfect beings. They, there's a lot of collateral damage as a superhero, it
Blood.
turns out. And I think that the show touches on that perfectly and kind of opens up that conversation. And just the ugly side of...
Is Smallville. I loved Smallville growing up. Favorite movie, I'm gonna have to say Dark Knight and Spider-Man Homecoming.
That was a good one.
And Avengers Endgame and Infinity War. That's 4. I give you 4, but I love them
Oh my
all.
gosh.
Whoa.
Ooh, I feel like we'd bring some DC ones over there. That's a darker universe,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. You know, I know Tom Holland said he'd love to have Spider-Man join the boys. And
That's hilarious.
Spider-Man can come. Yeah,
He can come on
we
in.
can-
That would be
yeah.
I'd watch that.
I think Superman, you know, that would be a really interesting thing. Like this, like total moral being, you know,
On
coming
such
in.
an immoral show.
Yeah, and him just being like, "What am I doing here?" You know, I think Marvel has done such a fantastic job of telling a cohesive story over a period of time. You know, it's hard not to love Marvel. Yeah, they have some of my my favorite superhero movies, and DC has some great ones as well. You know, you look at the Batman trilogy, you look at Dark Knight trilogy, you look at the Joker. You know, there's a lot of great storytelling. So mine would be gravity manipulation. So the ability, I've clearly looked at the Wikipedia of superpowers and picked my favorite thing.
Yes.
So gravity manipulation, you can control how much gravity, is the force of gravity in a particular place. So I could make myself really heavy or really light. I can make someone else really heavy or really light. So then when it comes to fighting, I don't know. But I could flick somebody and they could go flying. Or I could make them stay in one place and they would be immovable and they couldn't,
Stranger Things?
That's
And Neil Claudia?
11?
In particular?
Shapeshifter.
very
Could be
Mystique.
anyone. Very Mystique. Shapeshifter.
Yep.
Yeah. Or what's the one where you teleport? Teleport.
Yeah.
That one.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
I can be anywhere.
Yeah.
Egypt.
Oh man, if only we knew somebody
Bang.
with those powers, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really challenging to film Herogasm. I mean, it's a massive superhero orgy, and you have to find dozens and dozens of extras who are willing to be fully nude, and be filming in and around them as all of these scenes sort of progress. And then you have to figure out, we're not trying to make a porno, we're trying to make a superhero show. So then you have to start adding all the magical visual effects and who, they're not just having sex, this one's a psychic and this one has ice powers and this one's Ant-Man, and you start to try to figure out how all of that just even works. I wasn't there for filming, but I can say that filming, I think, was a lot. And then my favorite part of that is, then we're doing it all during COVID, right? So it's everyone's got to be all masked up until the moment when they have to be completely naked. And set design had, on these tables, they had these giant bottles of lube as part of the set decoration, and they're pump bottles. But then the COVID safety officers would have bottles of hand sanitizer that looked exactly like the lube bottles. So without fail, from what I understand, every 10 or 15 minutes, you would hear someone shout "damn it," because they meant to get hand sanitizer and they ended up spraying a huge glob of lube into their hands. Multiple. Yeah. I mean, we knew going in, we said if we're going to do something like this, we have to be so fastidious and correct with how we're doing it. I like to think of the boys as a deconstruction of the superhero genre. We're not trying to parody it. I love Marvel movies. I'm part of the Marvel audience. It's more about, we try to answer the question, what if superheroes really existed in our world right now? And how awful that would be. It's really a terrible idea to have superpowered humans. They It's only in movies and television that they would be that pure. So it really comes, for us, it sort of comes out of that. And it's interesting, too, if you look actually at the evolution of comic books. Comic books started with a lot of very straight-ahead superhero stories. And then the next generation, really a lot of English and British authors, Neil Gaiman, Garth Ennis, who wrote The Boys, like a second generation comes in and they kind of deconstruct the myths that were created. And I think you're seeing the same thing happen in television and movies now, which is a myth was created and now there's a bunch of us that are sort of deconstructing it and tearing it apart. It's certainly crazy, but like we actually don't set out to top ourselves, because I think it doesn't really lead to really interesting places creatively when you're just trying to figure out how can I be bigger or more shocking, or what we try to do is the saying in the writer's room is don't go bigger, go deeper. So we try to figure out, okay, what about the characters have we not explored yet, and what's the new facet of a character? And then from there, what madness sort of logically comes out of that story. But we always try to make it really tied into the story or the characters. And I think that's how, we can keep doing it without it ever getting too bloated. My favorite superhero movie actually is James Gunn made a movie called Super with Rainn Wilson that I think actually has a certain amount in common with The Boys, but that's my favorite superhero movie. And then who would I bring in? I would love to bring in an Iron Man character, but we don't have the budget to have like the suit and flying around and everything. So if I had all the money in the world, I would do our version of an Iron Man character. I do like them all. I mean, I thought this most recent Batman was just incredible.
I don't know how much we can say particularly about it, but when I read it in the script, I think like I'm thinking like there's no way they just wrote some of this stuff out. I don't know if we can actually shoot this, but from what I hear, the dailies were insane. Apparently, it's like some stuff that we've never seen on TV before.
I think, as far as I know, the adaptation of the Herogasm into the show is done in a way that no one will ever see coming. I don't think you can read the source material and have any idea how Eric was able to incorporate that into this show. It was just, oh man, it was, it threw us all for a loop. It kind of scarred our crew a little bit. Like our production crew was very,
oh yeah,
they were
rattled.
Yeah, they were rattled. They were rattled for sure.
That was the entire series as a whole. No. We'll see. Yeah, it gets crazier as the season progresses, for sure.
Oh, man.
For the Deep. Well, again, it's tough to talk about a series that we can't really spoil, but again, the only goal that the Deep wants to do is like get back to New York, get his identity back, and be with Homelander, and like be a part of the guys again. You know what I mean? And sort of have that celebrity and that purpose. A little bit. I think the landscape had been so saturated with superhero like genre, like we're used to seeing sort of the same old formulaic in a box storyline that these superheroes go through, and to flip it on its head and say, oh, what if Marvel was real and everyone was sort of fucked up, and what would they really use their powers for? I think people found it refreshing, you know what I mean, to do that. So within that same world, we sort of paved our own little path, which has been fun.
Maybe Tobey's Spider-Man might have been my favorite. I think there's the timing of it, it was such an incredible movie, and it was just,
right. It was one of the first ones.
Yeah. Man, it was the timing of that movie was insane. But I honestly really liked Endgame as well. I could not imagine doing like that many characters justice on that grand of a scale in the way that they did, and just like the emotional aspect of watching that movie just was really impactful.
The first ones I ever saw were like the Tim Burton Batman, from like I think it was late 80s, early 90s, you know what I mean? So those as a kid, it seems such like almost child's play now, from what superhero movies have become and what they've done with Batman in particular. But I really love Guardians of the Galaxy too. When that first one came out, I thought it was an interesting take
you know, and Deadpool is kind of more in line with what we're doing. I like that as well. So yeah.
Probably Deadpool.
I was gonna say, yeah, probably after, yeah,
Probably Deadpool.
That'd be awesome.
He'd fit right in.
He'd fit in.
Yeah. Not really. I think they're different enough for us to, you know, appreciate them both for just for what they are. I love, you know, I think Marvel creates very like beautiful aspects to superheroes and polishes them up very nice, and DC has allowed, you know, a darker perspective to kind of shine through, and I think there's room for both. I'm taking it.
Yeah, I'm doing it.
I could sit here all the time and say like, oh, I don't know, maybe I'm taking it. If I found out right now that you could go to the drugstore and get Compound V, I would try it. I'd have to.
I'd roll the dice for sure.
Yeah, if one person flies past me after taking it, I'm willing to take the risk.
Yeah.
Any powers, particularly that
Teleportation.
I was gonna say
if I can get
teleportation or flying, yeah, or eating whatever we wanted, yeah, stuff like that. That's
eating whatever I wanted.
That's great.
Barack Obama.
Yeah,
That'd be a
that'd be a good one. Absolutely. Yeah. No, there is that fascination with seeing, with like the anti-hero. I know it's like a bit cliched, but like it's so predictable. People like to see the rise and the fall and sort of the comeback, right? And to see that gray area, not so black and white, which is more like real life. So they like to see the flaws too. I'd pitch a prequel. Yeah. Go straight around, pitch a prequel. So yeah.
Hey, I know you guys want me to, but listen, this
is great. But
honestly, I think it would be, you know, if A-Train doesn't make it to the end of the series, I think it would only really serve him justice to have him, you know, to sort of feed into like the source material of where, you know, Huey takes him out. Like Huey reaches a level where he feels confident enough and powerful enough to take back what A-Train took from him. And that's sort of what happens in the source material. And I feel like something along those lines would work.